For anybody listening, this is the GoGuide podcast. We are here with Ben J from Precision Fly and Tackle. Precision Fly and Tackle has been an absolutely incredible help, kind of helping us build the system, make it better, and also one of our best shops that we work with. So, super excited to be on with you today. Ben, what's your role at Precision? How long have you been with the company? Yeah, tell us a little bit about that side of things.
Yeah. So my role at Precision is I'm one of the shop managers down at the Beaver Creek location, which is right outside of Hagerstown, Maryland. I also run a majority of their guiding for smallmouth, steelhead, and trout. So I'm really involved with the whole the guiding program. And sorry, what was the third question?
I believe, yeah. How long have you been there? And kind
Okay,
of
that's right.
what's been the history of you working with Precision Fly and Tackle?
Yeah, so I've been with Precision. It will be almost 2.5 years now, and kind of the relationship that I had with them, I knew about them. They were a fly shop in the area after I moved back from Reading, Pennsylvania. And while I was in the area, I kind of stopped into the fly shop, bought some materials. I kind of started talking to them because I worked with a previous fly shop before, and got to just introduce myself. We got to hang out for a little bit. Next thing you know, um, they wanted to talk business and stuff like that, and we kind of went from there.
Gotcha. Super cool. And just the first question I like to ask everybody is, what has been your start within the fly fishing industry? Tell me a little bit about the history of you and fly fishing, how you found the sport, how you got into it, and what about it really has grabbed you.
So my kind of start goes back to when I was 6 years old. I was given a fly tying kit. I was actually I started off. Sorry, I started off. I went to a TU fly tying night where I learned how to tie like a woolly bugger with a wet fly. I think we tied a wet March Brown, which was not the prettiest fly I ever tied. And then we tied, I think it was a hare's ear or some kind of caddis fly. And that started my interest right away on tying. Fly fishing wise, like I, I kind of grew up fishing. I remember always having some kind of rod in my hand. We were fishing between lakes, ponds, streams locally. Um, I saw my brother trying out a new thing with a fly rod, and he got frustrated with it. I picked it up, started catching bluegills, and that was it. So I've been hooked since I was a kid. Um, what got me into the industry was honestly working with Project Healing Waters, working with veteran-based programs 15 years ago. I always volunteered for them. I always supported programs like that. Um, did a lot of kind of like in water, water companion guiding for them as well. And that kind of jumpstart everything. Um, but it was always a passion. I always wanted to be a professional fly fisherman or professional fisherman, I should say.
Hmm.
Watching Bill Dance, Roland Martin, Jimmy Houston, and always seeing those guys on the Bassmasters, just tour. I'm like, man, I still want to do that when I get older. So that's what drew me to the fishing industry, and then fly fishing became more of a passion than anything.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a sport that grabs you once you get into it. That's for sure. It's interesting to me that you kind of went the backwards route. It seems that you got into fly tying, or at least had your first thing be fly tying before you actually got into fly fishing. Is that correct?
Yes,
Very, very cool. And today, would you consider yourself a better fly tyer or a better fly fisherman?
I would say I'm probably equal.
Gotcha.
Um, Normally, it takes me a little bit to figure out recipes and flies. Like if I'm wanting to tie something very specific, but creating my own stuff, I love doing that. I got some of my own patterns that I just you know dubbing some rabbit strips, and now you got magic and it catches fish. So that's kind of like I just enjoy being the artist on the fly end. Doesn't
Mhm.
always look as pretty, but the entertaining part is you caught a fish on your own fly, and that's always a plus. So
Absolutely. I remember the first fish I caught on my own fly, and it's a special experience. It means a little bit more than any of those fish that you caught from the flies tied by somebody else. So I definitely think there's a ton of value there.
absolutely.
Um, what would you say? So you right now are kind of specializing in the smallmouth steelhead. What was the other one that you were saying?
Trout.
And trout as well. Gotcha.
Yep.
What would be your favorite of those three that you love to guide for, love to fish for yourself? And then are there any other species outside of that that you have a real passion for as well?
Yeah, so I'm a steelhead junkie at heart. I love I love steelhead. I was introduced to steelhead. I always say it was before I was married, and which I really feel that it was true. I I can tell you the first steelhead I ever had on my rod. I was like, dude, this is amazing. Like,
Mhm.
there's no better feeling than hooking into those chromers and then landing them. And it's more we're fishing for East Coast steelhead. Some people there's a debacle or the rainbow trout. I
Mhm.
don't care. They're so much fun to catch. I do swing for them a lot myself, so I enjoy the tug. I enjoy the fight. Um, I personally love guiding for steelhead more than anything, but if I had to fish for steelhead every single day, I would do that absolutely.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, they are migratory, so it's kind of hard to do that.
Yeah.
But um, something that I'm kind of like, I don't want to say secretly passionate about, but something that I enjoy and love to do is saltwater fishing. We take a couple trips, down to Outer Banks, and go for whether I'm on the rock piles or the sound or the inlets, and try to go for speckled trout, reds. Occasionally lose your fly to a bluefish, and
Mhm.
just I just enjoy that whole saltwater game, even though I'm not very proficient with the tides, and I know how to follow bait balls. I know how to really match the hatch pretty much, but I just love the whole saltwater game just to kind of get away and do something different than what I'm doing locally. So
Absolutely. Yeah. I myself just caught the saltwater bug as well. Me and my buddy. I first went on my first permit trip this year. Absolutely fell in love
nice,
with that, and the difficulty of permit fishing is definitely something something to be spoken of. But me and my buddy just went down to Baja and did some rooster fishing, which was um,
awesome.
running down the beaches. It was pretty insane. So definitely on a saltwater kick right now. Steelhead is something I have not gotten into yet. So it sounds like something that I might need to come out and fish with you for.
Yeah, that'd be a blast. I mean, it's the closest thing you're going to get to fighting almost some of your saltwater fish in a
Mhm.
freshwater stream. Um, I will tell you, I lose more flies, run through more tippet, and bust more rods and more gear during steelhead season than I do anything else out that I do.
Yeah. Um, so with steelhead, first of all, what's the season? What does that look like? What time of year are they typically running? Just for those that don't know.
Yeah, so our season starts anywhere between the middle of October to the end of October. That's normally when it officially starts. We'll get some early, you know, overachievers that fresh fish will come up from the lake, and they'll try to head up and realize that the water is too warm, too low, they can't do it. But it normally starts, I always tell people, Halloween weekend, and then that's normally the fall kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
Fall doesn't end until like you get till it's iced over.
Mm-hmm.
Once it's iced over, it's really hard to get out there. And honestly, everyone, the locals up there, they're ice fishing at that point in time. I tend to, I used to, I'll put it this way, I used to go up there and we used to take cinder blocks and bust the ice open to just fish those holes because the steelhead would just come right into the holes. Um, but the season can last anywhere from November to even March the following year, and to sometimes April. I've seen guys fishing for them to complete into May, but um, I our season up there in Erie, PA, it's kind of normally the best time is that fall season. Our spring season is kind of hit or miss on the amount of runs, but you're going to have less people. So it's kind of a catch-22. You're gonna have some smaller fish in the fall the spring season, but the fall season you're gonna have a lot more people to deal with,
Mm-hmm.
and it's getting pretty popular up there. So anyone that books a trip with me, we're normally putting some miles on our boots to really get away from the people, get away from the crowds. Um, and it's kind of a scenery that you don't see anywhere else in Pennsylvania. It's kind of a cool scenery, big cut banks,
Mm-hmm.
lots of shale and slate. It's really a cool experience up there.
Wow, very cool. And what does a day steelhead fishing with you look like? When I book a guided trip with you, what is that day going to look like for us, um, as far as a guided trip?
So I always tell everyone like I'm as easygoing as anyone else. I want to make sure that we get enough time on the water. But starting most of the time when I pick up the clients at their hotel or meet them at the spot anywhere between the 6:45, 7 o'clock in the morning, we start walking down to the stream, get ready. As soon as we can start seeing our indicators or seeing targets, we'll start swinging for them or throw the indicator out and start going for them. Normally, we break for lunch. I've had some people that just literally fish straight through and don't eat until the end of the day. They'll pop a Cliff Bar, a granola bar, or anything like that. But I try to make sure they get a nice good lunch because we're normally out on the water anywhere between 8 to 12 hours, depending on how early we got out there and how bright it stays. I mean, I've had guys literally stay out with me till we can't see the indicator anymore, or can't see the fish anymore. They just got the steelhead fever so bad that they're like, man, I can't do this without I can't leave until I land one more fish. So it's literally an experience that you're going to go through 3 different seasons, or could go through 3 different seasons. The you could have an experience called thunder snow, where it's literally a snowstorm and a thunderstorm together. Kind of freaky. It's still kind of cool. We kind of hang low until that passes over, but yeah, it's kind of an exciting experience. Just going from chasing these fish down the river or upstream to fighting them, busting your knuckles up because they're ripping line off so fast. Um, yeah, and I mean when you land that fish or get the fish in the net, and you're like, wait, we just did this. It's like time just stops.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a magical time frame. I really try to make sure everyone gets the same experience, um, whether they hook into 100 fish or only land one fish. I want to make sure that they get the same experience that the adventure that steelhead season really gives you up there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. What would you say, as somebody who's done this for so long, what would you say a really good steelhead day looks like, as in conditions? What are you looking for that's going to tell you, hey, I think today is going to be a really great steelhead fishing day?
Yeah, so I pay attention to my water levels. Water levels are very crucial. Temperatures don't play too much of a game in November, but water coming up and going down. Um, if the water's, it's kind of like stained green, but is not too high. Um, Normally that's like I'm like, all right, it's ready to go. Like we're go. I don't care if it's snow, sleet, whatever. That's normally that perfect magic potion that makes stuff rolling. I mean,
Mhm.
it's for me the levels of the water is like, all right, this is the perfect condition for me, and that's so hard to always hit because it's based on weather.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I've been out there where hookup ratio you're looking at, you could have 100 hookups, you could land 50 fish. It's hard to sometimes it's hard to tell, or you could land one fish. It's all based on what Mother Nature kind of gives you at that point in time. So
Yeah. Yeah, there's that saying, "Guide not God." Guides can only
yeah,
do so much to prepare for a trip and be ready and do everything they can to create an incredible experience. But if Mother Nature doesn't show up to the party, then that just is what it is.
absolutely.
Mhm. And then, what kind of gear are we using? So, what's your kind of steelhead go-to gear-wise? What are you using as far as line, stuff like that?
Yeah, so my go-to gear, I'm a big Thomas and Thomas fan. Uh, have been ever since I started working with Precision Flying Tackle. Um, I fell in love with the 10-foot 6 weight Avant.
Mm.
I got to use one up there this past spring, and I'm gonna have a couple of them to go back up this fall. I'm gonna definitely make sure my clients get them in their hands too. Um, Normally between a 10-foot 6 weight, 10-foot 7 weight. That's like my go-to for getting people out there, whether they fish for them or not. And line wise, I try to stick to scientific anglers and Nadro line. That line can throw I mean, it can throw not only loops, but it can throw an indicator rig. It can throw a streamer. If you're swinging flies, which we got to experience a lot of swinging flies this past spring. I had an awesome trip up there this past spring. Um, and I mean, we had a blast up there with swinging intruders, little trout intruders, and they're like a muddler intruder.
Mhm.
And I mean, we're using a 10-foot 6 weight, 10-foot 7 weight, and just I mean, you lost some fish, you busted off on some fish, but it was just a blast. Um, Leader wise, I stick to 9 foot, 0x with barrel swivel to 8 pound test.
Mhm.
If the water's really low, we're using 6 pound test. I look at that at the, if you're using 3x tippet and 4x tippet, that's kind of what I'm pretty much using, and mainly my tippet's all fluorocarbon. So um, you you can't skip out on your tippet, or else you're going to lose fish. I mean,
Mhm.
that's the most important. One of the most important things of fighting fish. And reel wise, you need something with an awesome drag. I've used anywhere between lamps and reels to lamps and guru to the liquids. Um, to I have a couple Ross reels, the LTX, which is probably one of my favorite reels. I just there's just something about those reels that are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're not like stopping a fish like tarpon. You're not trying to stop them. This is more of you just have to have that tension on that they're when they zip off, they're not going to like spool your line
Yeah.
or give you a backlash on your line or burn your finger, bust your knuckle, or whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's like, I mean, that's kind of like my perfect equation of and using it. Probably, I think it's like the half-inch indicator. That's a whether that's a Oros or airlock. That's like a bulletproof indicator just to throw up there.
Mhm.
And I throw a lot of ecstasy flies. Got a couple patterns for them that I just zoned in and they just work. I mean,
Awesome.
They just, whether I'm using one fly or two, honestly, one fly normally is more suitable. I don't have to worry about foul hooks. And then on top of it, if I bust off a rig, I'm only losing that one fly instead
Yeah,
of both. So
absolutely. Um, so as far as the steelhead fishery around there goes, what's been the evolution of it over the years? Is there any conservation at play over there that makes the fishery as good as it is? Is there anything that you see out there that could be done better conservation wise in the area, or how do you feel about that?
yeah, so when I first started up in Erie, I mean, I remember like the kind of like the good old days where you could almost walk across the steelhead's back. Like that's how thick fish were.
Mhm.
It's not that they don't have fish like they used to. It's just there's been a lot of erosion to the banks. There's been a lot of erosion. Just for example, Walnut Creek. There's the falls, which is right up above Manchester Hole. That's been eroded for such a long time. The steelhead can't barely, unless it's flood stages, can they make it up there?
Mhm.
And so the state's doing an okay job of relocating steelhead so they get up.
Mhm.
But I think what overall conservation, um, the cleanup has been fantastic. There's a group up there called Sons of Erie. They're a local group that go around. They clean. They pick up trash. I mean, if it wasn't for them, we probably wouldn't have the access that we do. What would benefit is to have maybe a catch and release or a fly fishing only area. That's
Mhm.
just a small section that would maybe protect a little bit more fish because I mean, I live in a state that, and not that I'm bashing the state, but I love Pennsylvania. But, when it comes down to stocking, they tend to really focus on the stocking program versus their wild program.
Mhm.
And there are wild steelhead. I mean, I've seen the reds up there. I've walked through some of these streams and found reds and I have found wild fish. They're spawning and all that stuff. And normally I don't even touch them. I don't take clients there. And if I do take them there, it's they feel real special because they're like, they know I don't take them there and, other than just to check it out and observe.
Yeah.
Um, but when you're looking at fish can spawn there. Fish can be, can reproduce in the stream. But what ends up happening is the stream gets so low and so warm throughout the rest of the year that the smolts and stuff like that they could get landlocked and they could die. So what Pennsylvania does is they do a fingerling it's a smolt program.
Mhm.
They stock a I was watching the numbers at one point in time. It was like in the tens of thousands to stock to have a bring back a decent amount of fish for the following. It'd probably be about 2 to 3 years that they would see the return, and that has always worked for them.
Mhm.
The downfall is there's a lot of fish,
Yeah.
and on top of that, there's a lot of fish. So you have fish competing against fish, and there's also a lot of fish that leave on a stringer, which, I mean, again, I mean, people got to eat. I understand it. There's a limit for a reason, but there's nothing protecting or preserving in that area. It's all, I do see a lot of people releasing fish, which always like is kind of like a cool moment. They got their 2 second of fame with the pitcher and put it right back in, and just it's so cool to watch people release fish even from afar. They're like, "Oh man, I can't believe I just landed that fish." But the probably the biggest thing that if Pennsylvania would ever go this route, I mean, they did it up on the Salmon River in New York. They made a fly only area. They got two of them up there. They would only need one area
Mhm.
that would attract, and then they would actually see there's a lot more fly fishermen than there are spin fishermen in some of those spots.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, honestly, I would say for every, and not every fly guy is using flies on there. If you read any Joe Humphrey stuff, he uses when he first started into fishing. I mean, everyone in Pennsylvania used a fly rod and a mini rig.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I just watched a guy not too long ago, fishing a mini rig that way. That's how a lot of people started in the whole fly fishing game. That's how they were brought up, and nothing wrong with it. It's just there's not a lot protecting the resource we have up there, and if we don't protect it, we're not saying that we'll eventually lose it, but only time will tell. I will say, kind of like an add-on note, though, we've seen bigger fish. This past year, the incline of fish, we have seen better runs, but it seems like it resets every 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot more boats and charters out there that are guiding. They're limiting out, and if you think about it this way, charter boat can limit out. Every person can take their limit, including the captain, including the first mate. So now you got way more fish on that boat, and if they're doing that every single day for 75 to 80 days a year, that's how many fish per one boat's getting taken out.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see like a not a limit on fish, but like a size limit that would increase the size, maybe to 20. We'll say 26 inches to 30 inches is what they can keep.
Mm-hmm.
Anything over 30 inches, they have to return it. It's just like you're probably used to hearing it in the saltwater. They have slot sizes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be the coolest thing ever. It would help with the guys that are catching fish, and keeping them. They're keeping a healthy fish. They're going to keep one that possibly is a 3-year-old fish versus a 2-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And it would maybe help the limit kind of, maybe help some of this return ratio come back a little bit stronger.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see about all that. As far as the way that you're interacting with your clients as well, I feel like from what I've seen within the industry, guides are such an important part of it because they interact with so many people that are either new to the fishing industry, new to fly fishing, new to um, all of the things that we know because we've been in the industry and have been able to talk to people for a long time. But a lot of things that can slip through the cracks when somebody starts fly fishing on their own, trying to figure it out, is that conservation piece. Um,
Absolutely.
what would you say that you kind of add to the trip as far as teaching when you're with a client to make sure that when they even leave and go fish on their own, that they're doing it the right way?
Leave no trace. Biggest thing that we can do, leave no trace. Whether that's, you see a can, you see, a soda can or whatever, or if you see a gob of monofilament, you see something, just leave no trace. Like, normally I have a backpack on me and that gets filled up with trash. Normally I carry a little bag in there for trash, because you see some weird stuff. If it's something I can't physically I move out myself. Like, I've seen, I think the one year there was a complete lawnmower, just right on the side of the bank because they had like a serious flood. Another year there was a big tire. I can't carry a tire the rest of the way, like 5 miles up. That's pretty brutal. But leaving no trace is one of the most important things. I mean, I wasn't in Boy Scouts, but I was in an organization growing up, and that was our biggest thing was just leave no trace. Leave it how you found it. It's not really as a guide. It's more so just their duty just to make sure they left it as good as they found it. And when I see someone going down there and just throwing stuff out their pocket or whatever, that's like, man, come on. Like, the fluorocarbon does not break down over time. Monofilament will eventually break down, but just leaving no trace is the biggest thing. I've pushed myself to try to use less plastic, less water bottle plastic, but that's honestly because of COVID. That's really hard because people don't want reused bottles. And that's also been another harder thing for myself. With the whole guiding. So I just being a little bit more proactive in recycling. I recycle at my house. If there's anything that I can recycle, I'll do it. I mean, I'm gonna give shout out to my wife on that because I didn't grow up recycling. Like the area I lived in, we burned our trash. We didn't. I'm not saying my parents burned their trash, but everyone around us did, and I can tell you, it's just once you start doing it, it starts becoming more of a habit. And that's honestly, as a guide, the biggest thing up there is just leaving no trace.
Mhm.
Teaching people about ethics and morals. Making sure like, hey, that's also the biggest thing. Like a guy comes up to you, hey, do you mind if I fish the hole? Yeah, sure. I mean, even though I'm guiding, I we probably had our fair share. I'm not gonna. I don't own the water.
Mhm.
Why would I? Why would I really make sure that no one else can experience what we're experiencing? So, if we just got there and he asked, I'd be like, give me 15 minutes. What I mean? But
Mhm.
I really try to respect the all the fishermen up there, the anglers up there, and have a respect for the water and just resources around it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just so important because as guides, you do have this very cool ability to really affect so many people that are going to go out and then fish by themselves later down the road. And having them learn those things, even keep fish wet, all those little things that guides know and sometimes just don't get translated over are so important.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Um, so yeah, so at Precision Flying Tiger, you kind of oversee the guide service as a whole. What's kind of, or are you
There's
mostly?
so Mike Heck is kind of he runs the does a lot of our trout and kind of I view it as like a partnership with Mike. We kind of just we tag team everything.
Mhm.
Like he he is kind of. I mean, Mike Heck has been in the guide business longer than probably all our local guides have been alive. So including myself. So I don't want to say I don't do stuff without him, and vice versa, because we've developed this not only a good friendship, but we've developed this just conversation and running and talking about ideas that it's kind of like a co-partnership on the whole guide thing between him and I. I mean, it's important because it's almost like you're taking someone that's been in the business for such a long time and taking someone with maybe my background, and we're bouncing a lot of good ideas back and forth. And with precision flying tackle being like the corporate of where we all got unified with, it's just an amazing step for us to move forward. So it's like I couldn't ask for anything better. Matter of fact, when I was younger, I used to follow Mike Heck around while he was guiding a local stream. It was I knew what his car was, and if my mom was like on her way to drop me off fishing, I'd be like, if that's Mike Heck's car, drop me off down here. I'll give him space and stuff. But I always wanted to like learn more and watch someone guide and fish and stuff like that. So that's
Yeah,
always been entertaining. You know, I always make sure I remind Mike that I was that little kid in the shadow that he never knew that was doing that. But
that's awesome. Yeah,
yeah,
I got the pleasure of meeting Mike at the Pleasanton show, I believe it was. Incredible
yeah,
guy. Really enjoyed spending time with him, and I could tell that he really, I mean, really knows what he's talking about and has been
oh
doing.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he's when it comes down to trout, he's our head trout guide. He runs from Falling Springs, Big Springs, Yellow Breeches. I mean, he's written several books, several articles. He ties flies professionally. Like, I mean, he's got a background in it that has always, as myself. growing into the sport, and not only seeing other people, become successful and make it their career. He's one of the guys that I can really look at and use as a mentor and kind of learn from moving into whatever role I am in, with the guiding side, because Mike and I we kind of do run. It's funny. I kind of entertain myself because I he calls me the head bass guide and I call him the head trout guide, but we kind of nothing kind of gets undone without us knowing about it, because we pretty much know very quickly when something's going on.
Mhm.
Helping staff out, learning new products to what they use. Like, I got him hooked on a tippet ring. He was not using a tippet ring. I was like, dude, you gotta use a tippet ring. It's the
Yeah.
best thing in the world. Like, it will change your life. And he was like, why'd you have to do that? Like, I mean, he loves them now. Like, he finds
Yeah.
that they're great. So it's just cool stuff. Cool to work with someone like that who's so seasoned in the industry. I mean, I don't have a Joe Humphreys nearby. I don't have a Lefty Cray nearby anymore. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of well seasoned guides near me that I've bounced talked to or grew up with. I leaned everything on my uncle, so
Mhm.
who is a well known fly fisherman, and he's got his hands in a lot of stuff. And used to, but Mike actually knows him very well too. So it's kind of like we're all connected to my uncle. I mean, I blame everything on my uncle.
Yeah.
He got me into this addictive sport. Like, he's the one that took me into that tying class when I was young. So
Gotcha.
I blame it all on him.
There you go. Yeah, there's always those people. Mine was my dad. You got to blame it on them now that we're stuck here in
Yeah,
this industry.
yeah, absolutely.
um, so how has you've been with Precision Fly and Tackle for how long?
Almost will be 3 years. November, no, February, I think.
Gotcha. And so over that period of time, what's been kind of for anybody out there who's looking to start a guide service or run a guide service better or become just mentor maybe some younger guides underneath them, what would you say as somebody who's done it yourself is important to growing a guide service in general?
First off, be humble. Um, you you got to stay humble in this game. Um, I try to remind myself almost every day there's something new to learn. You don't know it all, and the fish will remind you of that. Second off, be honest. You got to be honest to your clients. Don't play the game like, oh man, you should have been here yesterday. I've heard guides say that almost. Uh, Honestly, I've heard them say that a lot. Like, through other organizations, they're like, "Oh man, you should have been here yesterday." They say that to their clients. I'm like, man, I never want to go out with you. Like, I should have been here yesterday. And it's humble and honesty goes a long way. And then the third off, I always tell anyone that's getting into guiding, volunteer. Volunteer, whether that's with kids, volunteer with veterans. Really figure out if you're really meant for it. I mean, it takes a special person. You
Mhm.
have to interact with clients. You are an entertainer. You're also a wealth of knowledge, so you need to know, like, the important stuff, like what hatches are coming off, what bugs are you should be using, what flies, what gear, the right everything. I mean, and that's it's okay to not know everything, but it's also important you do your homework first. um, Ask questions with other guys. Like, I mean, for myself, I literally consult with Mike Heck. I consult with him. I consulted with other companies when I first started, in the game with precision. Just connecting with people and rubbing shoulders with the right people. And getting along was important. Like, I mean, not not that we're all doing this because we love the sport. We're all doing this because not because we make a wealth of money. We work very hard. Every guide that I know probably that's doing it full time for a living, they work very hard for their money. I mean, from point A to point B, they're waking up like, I'll give you my perspective. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning to run my boat up in on the Juniata River.
Mhm.
I'm up way before I'm meeting them. But it's just a habit. I stay on task, learning to be disciplined, and at the end of the day, you're teaching. You're teaching them whether it's a cast, whether it's a fly. If you take all that and you're like, oh man, I've taught somebody. Like, I've had guys that, I mean, I'll be the first to admit it. I've had trips, especially in the past, where we barely caught a fish, if anything. But they learned so much, and they moved like the best part about it is when they went home and fished their home waters and they caught a trout and it's their first trout ever. They
Mhm.
sent me a picture. I'm like, okay, so that trip was well worth it, because before maybe they couldn't cast far, maybe they had a hard time mending, or they didn't understand what strip setting was, or it just getting your opportunity to teach them something new and something exciting. I mean, that's why we're there.
Mhm.
We're, like I said, we're not there to collect a paycheck. We're there because we're passionate about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's I mean, that's the reason that I get guides in general, is because I in the grand scheme of things, I'm young and I literally know a minuscule amount of all the incredible information there is about fly fishing. I get guides to learn from them. That's my main thing. For me, it's not about catching a fish. It's about sitting there and asking questions. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? Why, like, what's this technique? Ooh, can we try something new here? I'm not very good at this. Can we work on my double hole? That type of thing. That's why I get a guide. There's a lot of clients out there that get a guide because they just want to catch a bunch of fish and don't know the water. But they're missing that super important piece where they're with somebody who knows that piece of water better than anybody else, somebody who makes their money on it, makes their living on it. There's so much knowledge to be gained from that. And that's why
Absolutely,
guides are so important.
absolutely.
Yeah. Um, as far as the business of fly fishing goes, what have you learned about the industry through working at Precision Fly and Tackle? What have you learned about growing a guide service, about growing a fly shop, an outfitter, that type of thing? And is there any piece of information that you can share that you feel like would be valuable?
Uh, Put your time in, grind. Um, if someone's wanting to start a business up, honestly, if I don't even care if there would be someone close by. I get people ask me all the time, "Hey, I want to, I'm thinking about starting a guide. I just want to do it for fun." In the back of my head, I'm thinking, "Oh man, that's going to take away from my business." But I just view it this way. The more people that I can educate correctly on, hey, this is the proper way. This is guiding etiquette. This is like I actually had a guy come into the fly shop who is going to Alaska to guide, and he just was talking to me about some information of like, hey, what do I do about, you know, rods? What do I do about my taxes? Like, I was like, hey, that's a good question. And no one in the guiding business ever talks about it.
Mhm.
And, for me, I want to make sure that, the next generation, because it was passed to me by my uncle, it was passed to me by a lot of people, making sure that that next generation that's coming up, they have the same influence, they have the same connection, because it was very hard growing up, you know, not having the proper channels to get introduced to the right people. But I was blessed with an uncle that had some extreme talent,
Mhm.
and learning from him. Um, you know, I I can say it almost felt like it was like learning from Joe Humphreys. It was like learning from people. So passing that torch to the next person, that's really what I'm doing. I would rather set someone else up for success and make sure that they understand, just their way around, how to run a guide business than they just go out and, just flop it. And there are times, listen, I'm not going to tell them where, like, the secret spots and all that stuff. That's all you got. That's the grind. You got to learn that all on your own. But what line do you use? What shuttle service should you use? Stuff like that. Important stuff that people are like, man, this is, we're all out there doing the same thing. We're all working. It's we're playing nice and getting along. That's the name of the game. And if we can work together as a team, whether you're working with me, under me, whatever, it doesn't matter. I got friends that work for other companies that if I see them on the water, I'll text them, and if I know we're catching a lot of fish, I'll be like, hey, yellow, rattles in it. Make sure you got something, and vice versa. If he's on the water and he sees me and he's like, dude, we just turned a big one, but we couldn't get him to commit. I'm like, good to know, man. I'll let you know if we hook on them.
Mm-hmm.
It's just being kind and being nice to people and making sure that they're set up for success later on, because my success now could be someone else's future later.
Absolutely. Definitely. Yeah, I've heard it as kind of like the best successful guides are the people that have a kind of bring people to the table attitude, not trying to, keep everything so secretive and have
Yeah,
have the main things. You don't want to give away the things that you worked for your whole life figuring out, but
right.
being willing to share that stuff that you feel like everybody should know is so important.
Absolutely. Like, my biggest thing is if someone wants to know where, like, hey, I'm going to float, let's say the Juniata or Susquehanna, and they're like, all right, I looked on Google Earth. I just want to make sure, like, there's no crazy rapids or anything like that. Yeah, I'm going to give them like, absolutely, because the worst thing you're going to do to someone is put their life in jeopardy. I mean, and then they end up flipping their boat, their clients get hurt, something like that. I mean, that looks bad on all guides, not just one guide. So it's, you know, not that I've heard of too many people doing that, but man, if they do that, that's going to make anyone that guides that section of the water, they're going to be like, oh, well, I don't want to go with anyone on this water because it's too dangerous.
Yeah.
And just making sure that we kind of all work together. That's the biggest thing. I mean, it's even though there's a lot of competition because we're all in it to make money, and everyone wants to make more money than everyone else. It's just we also got to, like, I go back to this: be humble, have the right attitude, and from whether you guide 100 days a year or 10 days a year. I know that's a big difference, but the guy that guides 10 days a year, he may be the one that knows more about the water because he's spending probably the rest of the 200 days on the water, fishing after dark, fishing with his buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And, he just does it as a hobby and he is entertained by it. So
Definitely.
it's kind
of. Yeah. Well, I'd love to hear a little bit because I don't know completely what all does Precision Fly and Tackle offer. Love to hear what rivers you guys
yeah,
fish, where, what time of year is best for the different species.
yeah, absolutely. So we first start off with trout. I always start out with trout. They're all wade trips. We don't have any float trips. Honestly, there's not any real good floatable water for trout around us, so it's really hard to offer a float trip for trout. Um, we offer Big Springs, Falling Springs, Yellow Breeches, Lidditz Run, to some of the other like close to Lancaster area. We also offer the Maryland side. We offer Savage River, Lower Savage. We have a guide that runs Beaver Creek Fly Shop, the Beaver Creek stream itself, and a couple other streams that are out towards Savage as well. And the North Branch, we have a we have a guide service that works with us that runs the North Branch of the Potomac as well. We're with trout, we kind of have, it's nice because we do have two states that we cover. We do offer a lot of diversity, whether it's a spring creek, a stock stream, a wild stream, a blue line. You know, if you want to go for brookies and catch wild brookies all day long, we got them. There's definitely seasons. Pennsylvania, we are strictly bound by some seasonal water. You know, from opening day to the normally it's like February. This past year was like February 19th. They closed. From February 19th to literally opening day was closed. That whole month was kind of closed in March.
Mm-hmm.
To You couldn't fish anywhere except for catch and release, fly fishing only areas, delayed harvest. So we still do have a good selection of fishing stream, fly fishing streams for trout, and can be year round. Our main focus during the early spring to summer for trout, always is like a go. I mean, we hit trout pretty hard in the springtime, especially when the water's like really good. And then summertime, we just focus on like our spring creeks,
Mm-hmm.
and we only half days, early morning. Like we don't mess around with we don't want to be out there, when it's the heat of the day, stressing fish out. So, and then October's time frame, September, it's all based on water. So that's our trout trips. We offer full days and half days. We offer private for anywhere between one person up to two people, sometimes three people, depending on the area. Because some streams you cannot really have three people on them. It's just you have one person sometimes on them, and it's hard enough. And that's just because the fishing is so technical. I did forget we offer trips on the Latort as well, which is a pretty famous stream as well. And then for smallmouth, we offer float trips and wade trips. Juniata, Susquehanna, we lot of wade trips in our local streams just close to us. If I say them, people will be like, "What is that?" Because they're all Native American. So I'll just say it's close enough, like it's a tributary to the Susquehanna or the Juniata, just like. And then we also offer like smallmouth wade trips down in Maryland as well.
Mm-hmm.
We offer float trips on the Juniata and Susquehanna. Prime time for our smallmouth starts anywhere at the end of March and runs all the way into October. If you're looking for chasing big smallmouth, big flies, you want to hit two time frames. That's at pre-spawn and that's at October time frame. They're getting chunky for the winter. They want to get as big as they can for that winter. So you can throw some pretty big streamers. You're not going to catch as many fish, but you're going to catch some big solid fish. Your summertime is normally your top water, your numbers game. Like if you just want to take, I want to catch as many fish as I can. You go to the summertime.
Mm-hmm.
First time fly fishing for smallmouth. We got, we have pretty much the summertime is the best time to go because you can get out there and you can throw a small streamer out there and catch anywhere between. I think the smallest fish I had on was like 10 inches to 5 inches, all the way up to 20 inches. It's hard to tell sometimes. And then steelhead, our steelhead season starts water depending on how much water we got up on the tributaries in September and early October. We can start as early as the second or third week in October and run the whole way into March. So prime time is definitely November and December. That's our 100% prime time. And pretty much was on the water. I can be on the water almost all of November, and half of December sometimes. Just it all depends on water and flows and all that stuff. But steelhead is definitely like that's all. Whether I'll make the best of what we have dealt with us when we get up there, but that's normally you catch steelhead. Your and then we also get lake run brown trout up there as well during that time frame in the fall. We have some pretty good fish that we've landed up there. Um, you know, Not to tell a fish story or anything, but this past year I had one that was in the net that flopped out of the net that didn't stay in my net, and I have a boat net, so it was probably the biggest brown I've ever seen up there, and it reminded me of like a Michigan
Yeah.
lake brown, just like the 20 pounders that they get consistently up there. I'm like, man, that was huge, but it just wouldn't stay in my net, and it just popped a hook, and everyone cried. I know a part of my heart fell out of my chest there. My stomach sunk. The guy that he was such a good sport. He was like, dude, the fact that I fought that was the best thing ever. I was like, I'm hurt for you right now. You don't understand. Like, part of me just died right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have a good steelhead season, a good bass season, a good trout season, and I do guide all three of them. We have guides that also guide carp as well.
Mhm.
One of the guys he runs a carp trip and does pretty good on his local streams, like right outside Lancaster. So he's really tuned into it. I mean, he knows. No, he speaks the carp language. I mean, he knows it.
That's a tough
So
language to speak.
yeah. I mean, he knows it more than I do. So it definitely, I definitely can learn from him because when he talks carp language to me, I'm like, what? That hook's good. Why is that hook better than? I mean, the best hook in the world for a streamer is a B10S. Like everyone knows that. Like, I mean, he's like, not for a carp. You need this. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you totally lost me.
Yeah. What can everybody expect when they book a trip with Precision Fly and Tackle? What's that experience going to usually look like?
Professionalism. It's gonna so from first off with clicking the Go Guide, you'll be connected once it gets the trip gets either if you didn't pick a guide, we'll pick a guide for you, or if you pick the guide, we get you in touch with your guide right away. You're in touch with your guide from that point. I mean, it's normally we try to keep everything under 24 hours that you're being in touch with our guides are reaching out via email, text, phone call. We like myself and Mike Heck, we prefer to just call you, talk to you. We want the experience to be from that very first phone call to the end of the trip. 100%. We're professional from start to finish, and two, we want to have a good time. We like laughing. We like joking. We enjoy conversation. So it's not like you're just going out there and we're just mum. We're definitely we entertain. You know, like to talk. We like this. I don't sing, but we'll do anything to make you laugh. But we want to give you the best experience that we have on the water, whether that's from trout, steelhead to smallmouth. We want to give you the best experience, and we'll do whether that's stopping the trip and do a casting lesson just to improve your chances of hooking into a fish because I don't know too many guides that are like, hey, let's work on your casting first before we fish this water because it's very technical.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you that's one thing I've learned from Mike Heck. That's one of the most important things. If someone doesn't know how to cast on a stream that you're throwing like super tight loops on low limbs, as a guide, you're going to be losing flies nonstop all day if you don't do a casting lesson for just 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Just showing them some quick tips just to tighten it up. and once you have that experience with us, I mean, it's pretty much a friendship. I mean, we're a lot of my clients that are repeat clients. They're texting me, they're calling me. We kind of laugh and shoot messages all the time. Like eh, it's almost like we build a relationship with you, and we continue the relationship. And honestly, that's the connection that we have with Precision as well. Our guides are the face of Precision as much as the people that are in our shops, working. And we enjoy building relationships with our customers and our clients. So
Mhm.
that's one of our biggest things, and definitely learning. I mean, we won't if we can't give you an answer on the water, we will figure it out. And most of the time, there's not a lot of times where I'm like, oh man, that bug does stump me. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
The first time seeing a damselfly larva, that
Yeah.
kind of freaked me out. It looked like an alien. I definitely had to look that one up. It's like
Yeah.
that's not a stonefly. I know those, but just when you start noticing things, you start experiencing what I've experienced with trips that I've taken as well. I can tell you, I've had bad trips, and I've learned from those bad trips. I've learned, like when I took my first guide trip, I learned, okay, this is what I don't want to do. you know, just you want to entertain, you want to talk, you want to have fun. So I mean, it's part of the game and catch fish. We'll do whatever we can to catch those fish. I'm not going to do anything illegal, but we're going to do whatever's in our powers to catch fish.
Absolutely. Well, I can attest to it. Everybody that I've met at Precision Fly and Tackle, you, Mike, a lot of the other guides, a lot of the other people that work in the shop, incredibly knowledgeable, um, always that humble attitude, bringing you into the conversation, willing to give you information. I've always been super impressed by everybody that I've met there. So, really a huge fan of you guys myself.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there for now. Is there anything else that you'd like to touch on? Anything about you or Precision Fly and Tackle that you guys are working on that you'd like to get out there into the world, or anything you'd like to talk about to finish up?
Um, I definitely probably the biggest thing for like the whole guiding thing on Precision Flying Tackle. We're really kind of make sure that Go Guide. It's been a blessing for us. It's really organized. So I mean, just take. I don't want to say that just because this is a Go Guide, I'm not trying to promote, but it's probably the coolest thing and the best thing that as a guide stance. It's well organized, and it's helping us not only grow our business, but it's helping us be organized on the back end for the guides, making sure. So, for let's say a young guide company or someone that's running their own business, is definitely well worth it. They have calendars, they have so much opportunity that will help you grow. So, I know that's like a plug in for you guys. I'm not doing that because you're paying me, but I will tell people that it's been a blessing for the most part. I mean, any little things that have been like, just like, oh man, that was a little wonky or whatever, like it just a little bug in the system. You guys are on it, you're fixing it, and you're listening to what we have to say, whether it's our classes that you just loaded up for us, which we're super excited to promote. You can literally look at our calendar and book a class. Like it's phenomenal. It's just like guiding. So we're just super excited to work with this and have this partnership with GoGuide. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. You've kind of touched on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm definitely excited to see what the future has for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Ben. We appreciate it so much. And honestly, the whole thing is it's built by you guys. At the end of the day, I don't know as much as you do about running a business in the outfitting industry in fly fishing. And that's exactly why I come to you and I listen to you guys when you guys tell me what we need to fix, how we can make it better. And that's what's so important. So you guys are really helping us build the system. And like anything else in the industry, as always, the guides are the most important piece.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, Ben, thanks for your time, man. It was great to have you on there. I appreciate you plugging GoGuide without even me asking. I will say that my final question was going to be a little bit of a shameless plug of the GoGuide system, anyways, but you beat me to it. So thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you
Well,
so much for having me on.
I feel like we'll have you on again soon. I'm excited to get out and steelhead fish with you. I think it'd be actually a lot of fun to maybe even do some filming together while we're out there. That would be incredible.
Yeah, yeah, fantastic. Yeah,
Cool.
that'd be a blast.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for jumping on today. It was great getting to know you a little more. I look forward to getting out and seeing you in person.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Phil.
All right. Have a great one.
You too.